Okay, so the Brian Walshy murder trial has been, well, it's been a lot. We're into the second week, and things are getting intense. You've got the prosecution painting this picture of a cold, calculated killer. But then the defense comes back with this story of just pure panic. So what's the real story here? Today, we're going to break down the key pieces of evidence for you, the stuff that could really swing this thing one way or the other. Let's dive in.
All right, so the first thing we got to get straight, because this is super important. This trial, it's not about if Brian Walshy got rid of his wife's body. We know he did. He's admitted to it. Wild, right? So the whole entire reason they're in court, the big question hanging over everything, is simply, why? Why did he do it? And that why is really the central battleground here. The jury has to decide between two completely different stories. I mean, they're polar opposites. In one corner, you have the prosecution painting this picture of a cold-blooded murder, followed by this incredibly detailed cover-up. And in the other corner, the defense says no, this was a horrible, unexpected tragedy, and what you saw after was just a man completely consumed by irrational panic.
So let's look at how the prosecution is trying to prove their side of the story, the murder side. Where do you start? Well, you start right at the beginning, at the scene itself, the Walsh family home. Their goal is to convince the jury that the things they found there, they just scream violence, not panic.
And man, the testimony from the medical examiner's office, it was just chilling. They started bringing out these items found in the home, things that might look ordinary at first glance. But then came the forensic results. A rug from the basement, a knife, tin snips, a hammer, and a hacksaw. All of them tested positive for blood. The prosecution is basically saying, look, these aren't just random tools from a garage. This is a dismemberment kit. Okay, so after the physical evidence, the prosecution pivots. They move from the house to the computer. They start laying out the digital breadcrumbs that Brian Walsh allegedly left behind. And I gotta tell you, this is where their case takes a really, really dark turn. I mean, just look at this. This one Google search is what the prosecution sees as their absolute smoking gun. 10 ways to dispose of a dead body if you really need to. Wow. Their argument to the jury is pretty simple. This is not some random, morbid thought. This is research. This is someone planning, step by step, how to get away with something horrible. They're saying this proves premeditation. It completely blows the panic defense out of the water. And it wasn't just not one search. Oh, no. The digital trail just keeps going. He's allegedly looking up things like, how long does DNA last? And can you identify someone from partial remains? He's searching for how to clean blood off a wooden floor. And what's the best tool to dismember a body? A hacksaw, apparently. The prosecution is basically just holding this all up to the jury and asking, does this sound like a guy who's panicking? Or does this sound like a guy with a plan? So you've got the Google searches, right? The plan. The next step for the prosecution was to show that he put that plan into action. And they do that with surveillance footage. They show the jury what Brian Walsh was doing on January 1st, 2023, the day right after his wife, Anna, was last seen alive. And this timeline, it's pretty damning in the prosecution's view. First, he's at a Lowe's. The man they say is Walsh is wearing a mask, wearing gloves, and he buys a whole bunch of cleaning supplies and buckets with cash. Then, he's seen near a dumpster at a liquor store that wasn't even open. Next, he's hitting up pharmacies, buying bandages, antibiotic cream, and not one but 5 bottles of hydrogen peroxide. And finally, a convenience store for a bunch of ammonia. You see the picture they're painting? This isn't just a guy out running errands. This is someone putting together a full-on cleanup kit. Okay, but as we know, there are always two sides to every story. So you hear all of that, and you think, wow, that's a lot. How on earth does the defense fight back against this mountain of evidence? Well, their whole game plan is about one thing, creating reasonable doubt. And they do that by telling a completely different story. And here's where you can really see the two narratives side by side. The prosecution's case is all about murder and a cover-up, calculated actions, a digital trail proving intent. But the defense? They're going to argue this was a sudden, unexpected death. Something tragic happened, maybe stress, maybe a sudden illness, who knows. But it wasn't murder. And everything Brian did after, it wasn't calculation. It was pure, unfiltered, brain-breaking panic. And this right here is the absolute cornerstone of the defense's entire case. It's also the single biggest hurdle for the prosecution. The defense attorney got the medical examiner to admit something huge on the stand. Without a body, You can't definitively determine the cause of death. You just can't. And that admission, that's the little seed of reasonable doubt that the defense is hoping will grow and grow in the minds of the jurors. So, as we watch the rest of this trial play out, it really all comes down to this one question, doesn't it? The prosecution has piled up a mountain of evidence, the searches, the shopping trips, the blood, but it's all circumstantial. And the defense has this one huge, undeniable fact on their side. There's no body. So the question for the jury, and for all of us watching, is, can you prove murder beyond a reasonable doubt without it? Can a story, no matter how convincing it seems, be enough when the most critical piece of the puzzle is just gone?